Today on NBA 2K24, we will be simulating the career of Victor Wenbanyama, but with a twist. We'll be placing this year's number one overall pick into the 1980s. 40 years before he enters the league in real life, we're going to be putting him in one of the most physical and toughest eras in the NBA, and we're going to see how he can handle it. We're going to place him in the 1984 NBA draft, and we're going to see how his career goes if it started 40 years earlier than it would in real life. Wembanyama is the projected fourth pick in the class, only behind some pretty good company: Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, and John Stockton. So the Lakers end up beating the Celtics in the championship the year prior, and that'll bring us to the draft lottery. We'll see which teams move up and down for the chance to select Wemby or one of the other Hall of Famers. The second pick will be made by the Washington Bullets, which means the Chicago Bulls get the number one pick. Wow, that was a really exciting draft lottery. The Clippers, interestingly, have 3 and 4. And remember, Wemby was the projected fourth overall pick, and that has not changed. So maybe he goes to the Clippers and teams up with one of these other Hall of Famers. Let's see what happens. So the Bulls are on the clock. Do they stick with Michael Jordan or do they go in a different direction? And they select Victor Wenbanyama with the number one overall pick. Well, this is a surprise. He was not supposed to go until 3 or 4, but the Bulls shock the world and pick Wemby over Michael Jordan, who goes to the Bullets, while Olajuwon and Stockton team up with the Clippers. So what does Wemby's Bulls team look like? Obviously, Chicago did not have the likes of Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, or Dennis Rodman yet. So the roster looks quite a bit different, and he is already pretty comfortably the best player on the roster going into his rookie season. For what it's worth, him being only 19 years old, he is a couple years younger than some of the other top rookies, and in his first game, he dropped 12 points in a win. So we'll simulate up to his first All-Star break and see how things go. The team is not playing very well. We're 15 and 29, which is fine. The roster is not great. Now, Wemby's having a pretty good rookie season, averaging around 20 and 9. And he's shooting the three ball a little bit, which, keep in mind, there was a lot less three-point shooting here in the 80s than there is now. Let's simulate up to the season and see if anything changes. By the way, I saw this news tab. I thought that was pretty cool, especially because it's like an old-timey newspaper since we're in 1985, which is a long time ago. So Magic wins the MVP. The Rookie of the Year ends up going to Michael Jordan over Victor Wenbanyama. He still would end up making the All-Rookie First Team, along with MJ, Hakeem, and Stockton. And the Bulls end up making the playoffs at 32 and 50, grabbing the 8th seed. Keep in mind there's less teams in the NBA, so you're going to see a lot more bottom feeders making the playoffs. Wemby had a pretty solid rookie year, but the stat that really popped out to me the most is he led the NBA in three-pointers as a rookie. And keep in mind, he is 7'4". I feel like Wemby leading the league in threes back then must be like some form of witchcraft. He's already third all-time in Bulls history in three-pointers, and he's been here for 1 year. He's 20 years old. And his reward for his rookie season is playing against the super team Celtics in the first round. The Bulls would actually take a game, but nothing more. The Lakers beat the Celtics again in the championship. So overall, a pretty successful rookie season for Wembanyama, who had a pretty good playoff run, albeit in only 4 games, and he continued to shoot the three ball quite a bit. So that'll bring us into the 1985 NBA offseason. The lottery is now different. Of course, this was the first real draft lottery, the Patrick Ewing one, where the Knicks had like the bent envelope to select him. And these 7 teams all had the same odds of getting the number one pick. The Spurs were originally projected the worst of this group. I assume they had the best record. But look at the Spurs go. They just keep going up and up and up. The Knicks won't get the number one pick. And sure enough, it will be the San Antonio Spurs, who had the best record of this group, selecting number one overall. They'll have the opportunity to select Patrick Ewing or possibly one of the other players in this draft class. And sure enough, they would go with Ewing, while Karl Malone, Mr. Age is just a number himself, goes to the Warriors, Joe Dumars to the Hawks, Chris Mullin to the Kings. And that'll bring us into Victor Wembanyama's next offseason, where he goes up 4. You love to see it. He is an 88 overall, really getting better across the board. And as you can see, he's already one of the best players in the NBA, despite being only 20 years old. I'm curious to see how much of a leap he can take up here in year 2. The roster is pretty much the same compared to last year, but the team is playing better. We're 19-23 here at the break. Wembanyama's numbers have improved across the board, and his three-point efficiency is phenomenal. He's already made more threes than he was last year, so he's literally the Steph Curry of the 1980s, but he's 7'4" and 21 years old. He's in the Defensive Player of the Year race, currently second behind Hakeem. He made an All-Star team. Things are going well here for young Victor Wenbanyama as we simulate to the end of the season. Magic Johnson wins another MVP. He continues to dominate. Hakeem does win the Defensive Player of the Year over Wembanyama, who ends up making the All-Defensive second team. No All-NBA teams, but still a great year for him. Now, the Bulls ended up missing the playoffs. They actually kind of fell apart down the stretch, going 34-48, one game back of the 8th seed, which ended up going to the Cavs. Wemby's numbers improved during the second half of the year, 22 points, around 9 rebounds, and he nearly doubled second place in three-pointers made. That's ridiculous, on nearly 50% shooting. And may I remind you, he is 7'4". He, again, is committing witchcraft according to these players. He's already 23rd all-time in NBA history in threes, and he's been in the league for 2 years. That'll bring us into the 1986 NBA draft as Ron Harper goes number 1 to the Knicks. Dennis Rodman ends up going second. The Bulls add Mark Price, another potential young star. Brad Daugherty goes to the Suns. Arvydas Sabonis, the very next pick. As Wemby goes up 4, he's now a 92 overall. Xavier McDaniel goes up a little bit. Mark Price is now here. This is actually starting to become a pretty nice core that the Bulls have around Wembanyama. We'll see if they'll be able to capitalize with him on his rookie contract as we simulate to the break. And again, marginal improvements. We're 21-23. Wembanyama recently got injured, but he's having a great year, 24-12. Currently 4th in the MVP race and 3rd for Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously making an All-Star team as well as first time starting in the All-Star game. So Hakeem Olajuwon ends up winning the MVP in just his 3rd NBA season. He also wins the DPOY, while Victor Wenbanyama will... Oh my God, Magic Johnson's on the Bucks. Okay, that's weird. All right, you do you, Magic. Anyway, Wembanyama makes the All-NBA second team. Very impressive for somebody who's 22 years old. Now, the Bulls only get the 8th seed again, though, winning 36 games. So, I mean, we're winning more than we did in the past, but the improvement is very marginal. Now, Wemby had a pretty good year, 25 points, 11.5 rebounds. So he is continuing to get better at a pretty fast rate as he's looking like one of the better young players in the league. His shooting splits were good across the board, over 50% from the field. As a three-point shooter, again, higher than last year, and he led the league again for a 3rd straight year. And Vic is now 12th all-time in three-pointers made, and he has still only played 3 years. So we get to play the Magic Johnson Bucks in the first round. They also have Sidney Moncrief and a young Dominique Wilkins. This team's going to go all the way. Yeah, they lost like 2 playoff games, which really is not a surprise. That is a nasty roster. No shame in getting swept by them. David Robinson goes to the Nets, 1st overall in the 1987 draft. Scottie Pippen goes to the Jazz. And the Bulls get Horace Grant, which is kind of funny because in real life, I don't think the Bulls drafted Horace Grant. I believe they got him later. I'm pretty sure he was drafted by Seattle. So now the Bulls get him earlier. It's also worth noting that the Lakers have kind of fallen apart a little bit. They lost Magic. Kareem retired. They lost James Worthy, but they signed Alex English, who I think is one of the most underrated players ever. Dominique back with Milwaukee. That team is absolutely filthy. Wembanyama is a 94, and Mark Price goes up 4. I wish McDaniels would have gone up, but still, we've got a nice little core 4 with Price, McDaniel, Wembanyama, and Horace Grant. Hopefully this core continues to develop with each other here in Wemby's last year of his rookie deal, and finally the team is over 500. It appears we're really going to be competing for a playoff spot this year at 24-17. Wembanyama's numbers are pretty similar to last year. The assists are up, which is cool, but he's not currently in the Defensive Player of the Year or MVP race. Magic wins another MVP in Milwaukee. I think he has 4 MVPs and 5 championships. Yeah, pretty good. No All-NBA teams for Wemby, but his individual success is replaced by team success. 43-49, 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. Wembanyama averaged 23 points, 11.5 boards. He is now 2nd all-time in NBA history in three-pointers made. How is that possible? Now, he actually did not lead the league in threes. He was fourth behind John Stockton, Terry Porter, and Chris Mullin, who shot 51% from three while leading the league. And the Bulls are going to face off against Isaiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons. Detroit doesn't really have anybody else super scary, but that doesn't matter because Thomas and the Pistons sweep the Bulls, and then the Clippers beat the Bucks in the finals. Hakeem Olajuwon and John Stockton lead the Clippers to a championship, so the Clippers now have the ring. Danny Manning, rock chalk, ends up going number one to the Jazz in the 1988 draft, teaming up with Scottie Pippen. Victor Wenbanyama is now a free agent, but he is restricted. I assume the Bulls are going to sign him for a max of around $2.5 million a year. Not even. He gets less than $2, a hometown discount with the Chicago Bulls, so he'll be back for another 3 years. As expected, he goes up to a 95, while Mark Price takes a big leap of +4, and Horace Grant goes up by 3 as well. So now Wembanyama is on his big contract, big relative to the time. Hakeem ends up winning the MVP. Danny Manning, Rookie of the Year. Again, rock chalk. The Bulls had a pretty successful season, but Wembanyama is out for the year with a spinal injury, and it's unfortunate because the team was the 3 seed, really getting into their own, 48-34. The core is really gelling together, but we're going to be without Victor Wembanyama for the playoffs, and he had a crazy year. 27.2 points, 15 boards, 53% from the field and 47% from three. He was second in threes behind Stockton and is now currently the all-time NBA leader in threes made. Now, unfortunately, without Wemby, we're going to have to face off against the Knicks, led by a young Ron Harper, and we win in 5. Oh, okay. I didn't really expect that. Now we've got the Charlotte Hornets. They are a new expansion team. This is their first season in the NBA, and they got the 2 seed somehow with Del Curry and friends, and we beat them. Whoa! Okay, what is happening? There's no way this team beats the Bucks. They don't have Sidney Moncrief anymore, but still they've got Magic, they've got Dominique, and the Bucks are looking pretty good, but we're hanging in there and we lose in 5. So in Victor Wembanyama's first 4 seasons in the NBA, the Bulls won 0 playoff series, but without him, the Bulls win 2. In the 89 draft, Glenn Rice goes number 1 overall, Tim Hardaway, Sean Kemp, Purvis Ellison, and Danny Ferry headline the list of names there. In free agency, I want to point out that Magic Johnson has signed with the Jazz. Imagine if Magic Johnson did this in real life. This might have been the smartest possible career move for him because he's not going to be sleeping around with the women in Utah. There's no way he can get AIDS up there, right? Wembanyama is now a 96 as we enter the 1989-1990 season. I'm curious to see how the team performs with Wembanyama as a 96, pretty much in his prime. We signed Manute Bol. So Wembanyama and Manute Bol are on the same team. I hope they're on the floor together. That is a pretty tall front court. I cannot lie. So we will simulate here 26-16 at the All-Star break. The team seems to be playing well again. Wembanyama's numbers are down, but team success is up, and he's 5th for the MVP as a result. He's also 4th for Defensive Player of the Year. Obviously, he made another All-Star. He's made the All-Star team every single season, minus his rookie year. Hakeem wins another MVP. He's been unbelievable with the Los Angeles Clippers. He has overshadowed Wembanyama. Hakeem has MVPs and championships, which Wemby does not. The Bulls end up finishing as the 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, finishing at 56-26, and it really feels like this team could contend for a title, especially with the Bucks not doing so hot now that Magic Johnson's off the team and in the West. Wemby had another great year. Winston Garland also averaged over 20 a game. I'm like 95% sure that's Darius Garland's dad. So we will rematch with the Knicks in the first round. They've got Kiki Vandeweghe now. Ron Harper's still here, obviously, but we should still beat these guys as Wemby looks for his first playoff series win, and we bring out the brooms. We've got the Milwaukee Bucks. They don't have Magic Johnson anymore, but they still have Dominique Wilkins. I don't know if Dominique alone is good enough to beat our team, and it looks like a pretty competitive series. The Bucks now lead 3-2, and we lose. Michael Jordan leads the Washington Bullets to a championship. Remember the 3 Hall of Famers in the draft class with Wembanyama, those guys being MJ, Hakeem, and Stockton? They have all won championships now. Wemby is not, so the pressure's on. Gary Payton goes to the Timberwolves first overall in the 1990 NBA draft. Derek Coleman second overall to the Mavericks. That'll bring us to player progression. Wemby doesn't seem to be getting too much better. He's a 96 overall. I think he's at a good place for his prime. The problem is the rest of the team isn't really improving either. Horace Grant went up by 1, but that's about it. So our core kind of is how it is right now, and while I think we have a good roster, I'm not sure if this team is good enough to truly contend for a title. Wemby's got 2 more years on his deal, so we'll see how the Bulls play over these next couple of years and what his future looks like. We're 26-18 at the All-Star break. Victor Wenbanyama is an All-Star, obviously. He is currently 5th for the Defensive Player of the Year, but that's it. He never really seems to truly contend for the MVP, again with Hakeem Olajuwon overshadowing him as Hakeem wins another MVP with the Clippers. Wenbanyama makes the All-NBA third team, and the Bulls once again finish as the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference. We ended up going 50-32, which was worse than last year, but still quite solid. Wembanyama's numbers pretty good, 24-12, continuing to shoot the ball well, good defense, and the playmaking has gotten better as well. So we're going to be playing against the Boston Celtics here in the first round. They've still got Larry Bird. They have Ralph Sampson now, and they also have Muggsy Bogues. I think those guys are like 2 feet apart in height. So it's not going to be easy. I mean, Larry Bird's one of the greatest to ever do it. I think they're better than your ordinary 7th seed, and they are proving it here. We lose in 4. Sure enough, the Bucks beat the Jazz in the finals, so Dominique beats his former teammate, Magic Johnson, in the finals. That's kind of cool. Grandmama Larry Johnson goes number 1 to the Los Angeles Lakers here in 1991. Dikembe Mutombo to the Trailblazers. And in player progression, Wembanyama's rating, again, unchanged. He's still pretty much in his peak. But nobody else is really getting that much better. Xavier McDaniel's getting worse. Reggie Theus really is not the same player he once was. He's only a 75 now at 33. Now, Wembanyama's contract has been extended, so he is going to be sticking around with the Bulls for the long haul as we enter the next era. It's the Michael Jordan era as we start the 1991 season. Hopefully, we turn this into the Wembanyama era, and if that happens, it looks like it's going to be with the Bulls. He seems pretty loyal to this team, even though they haven't really gotten all that much better. We are 11-30 at the All-Star break. 11-30. That is not good. Wembanyama has missed some time, but still, there's no excuse for this team to be 11-30. Now, when he's been healthy, he's been really good, but he appears to be unsettled. Maybe you should have thought about that before you signed the contract, buddy. Magic Johnson wins the MVP with the Jazz, who goes 72-10 with Magic and Scottie Pippen. Wemby makes the All-NBA third team, and the Bulls ended up finishing in dead last. We went down from 13th in the East to 14. Now, if there is a good thing about this, we're going to have high draft odds, and this is the Shaquille O'Neal draft. So if we can pair up Wemby and Shaq, that'd be a nasty duo. Wemby averages 27-13. The problem is the rest of the team was mid as hell, as Magic Johnson leads the Jazz over the Admiral David Robinson and the Brooklyn Nets. That'll bring us into a very important draft lottery. The Bulls have the projected 2nd overall pick from the Mavericks. Just don't drop, and we drop all the way to 5. Jesus Christ, that is not a good result. And the Milwaukee Bucks, after all those championships with Magic and Dominique, they get the number 1 pick. Yeah, because they've been suffering for the last decade. They get Shaq. Now, the Bulls get Christian Laettner, which is still pretty solid, but he ain't Shaq. Michael Jordan signs with the Pistons. That's weird. Hakeem Olajuwon signs with the Supersonics. And look at this. Wembanyama goes down by 3. Hello. This is not good. Red alert. He is a 93 overall. Could this be because of some of his injuries? I think that's possible. I would rather it be injuries than him just starting to regress now. But if he really is getting worse, we've got to start winning sooner than later, or else he's never going to get the chance to do it. Wembanyama still makes the All-NBA second team, despite the fact that his rating is going down. His play has not really been affected yet. The team finishes as the 3 seed, and Wemby played pretty well. 22.5 points, 11.5 rebounds. Good stats across the board. The team wins 53 games, just 2 shy of the number 1 seed, and will play against the Atlanta Hawks. They've got Tim Hardaway and Joe Dumars leading the way. They've got the Jet as the 6th man off the bench. Solid team. And it's pretty competitive so far. We tie it at 2, and I think we're going to simcast this Game 5. I really feel like this is the most important game of Victor Wembanyama's career so far. He's got to show up and show out. We're down by 3 with 1.5 minutes. We're going to hop in. The pressure has to be on for Victor Wembanyama to win something in his career. His team has only made it far when he has been injured, as he gets the layup to bring the Bulls within 1. Shot no good. Bulls with the rebound. It's Victor Wembanyama with it, bringing it up the floor. He's got to be the guy taking charge. He's the alpha dog on this team. He has seen the guys drafted after him win championships, as he is fouled and will go to the line with an opportunity to put the Bulls ahead. The first one is good. We are tied at 88, and then the second one for Wemby is good as well. The Bulls lead it by 1 with around 1 minute to go. Dumars with it in the corner to Kevin Willis. The Hawks passing it around as Tim Hardaway has it now, and his shot is no good. Mark Price with the clamps defensively. McLeod wide open, misses the three. I'm honestly surprised he shot it with how shooting is in the 1990s. McLeod back with it, and he loses it. The Hawks have it. Tim Hardaway can put Atlanta ahead. Coast to coast for the lead. He misses the layup. Mark Price with the defensive stop of the year. McLeod goes to the line to shoot as he makes the first one, and the second free throw is going to fall. No, it's no good. 2-point game, and the Hawks call a timeout. Atlanta can tie or take the lead. Presumably they're going to try to tie because, again, teams don't like shooting threes. But if they get a good look, they might let it fly. Hardaway does get a good look, and he misses it. Wembyama with the rebound, and he is fouled and will go to the line. The Bulls with an opportunity to finish off the game. Fittingly, the ball is in the hands of Victor Wenbanyama. The first free throw is good. It's a 3-point lead for Chicago, and this one can now ice the game. The second one for Vic will fall as well. The Bulls lead by 4, and this one appears to be over. Victor Wenbanyama, in the most important game of his life, comes up big. The Bulls get the win. They're moving on to the second round, and it's not going to be against the 2-seeded Nets. Both of the top 2 seeds lost. Number 1 seed Pacers got swept. So we're going to play against the Magic with an old Adrian Dantley and a young Sean Kemp. This team would be better if everybody was in their primes, but they're not. We sweep them. And we've got the 4-seed in Milwaukee Bucks. They've got Clyde, they've got Bogues, they've got Shaq. No more Dominique, but I'm still expecting a tough series, although I think we can beat them. And clearly I'm wrong. We're down 3-0. But look at this. We win game 4, 5, and 6. Hold on. Buckle in your seatbelts, folks. We're going into a game 7. And would you look at this? The Bulls get the job done. Chicago is down 3-0. They win 4 in a row. Victor Wenbanyama played pretty well across the board, including a 50-burger in Game 5, leading the Bulls to the finals for the first time in his career. And we're playing against the Phoenix Suns, a team we haven't really seen a whole lot today with Kevin Johnson, Mitch Richmond, Dale Ellis, and Brad Doherty. On paper, this team doesn't seem that scary, but when you throw in the fact that they're the 1 seed and have not lost a single game in the playoffs, we are the heavy underdog, and it would show. We're not doing too hot. We're down 3-0, but look at this. We're starting to make a comeback again. Hold on. Okay, the Suns win in 6. So, got to give the Bulls credit, though. This was a great year. We came back down 3-0 to win the Eastern Conference Finals, and then we took a couple games down 3-0 in the NBA Finals. And with a young Christian Laettner and all these other guys, along with Wembanyama, I think this core can be something special under the condition that Wembanyama does not regress harder than a truck. So, Chris Webber goes number 1 in the 93 draft. He goes to the Rockets. As for free agency, pretty loaded group here. Magic Johnson is a Clipper. What the hell? James Worthy is a Timberwolf. Chuck Person teams up with Magic. And then John Stockton signs with the Jazz. Wemby goes down 3 again. He is a 90. That regression last year, clearly not a coincidence. Rather, it is a trend. Wembanyama is no longer in his prime. He's actively getting worse. So in other words, we've got to win now. Scottie Pippen wins an MVP now that he's no longer teamed up with Magic Johnson. Penny Hardaway with the Boston Celtics ends up winning the Rookie of the Year. Patrick Ewing wins Depoy. Hakeem Olajuwon doesn't seem entirely the same with the Seattle Sonics. And as you'll see here, no Wembanyama on the All-NBA teams. And his numbers, as you can see, the team finishes the 3 seed, so team success, again, not an issue. His numbers are going down a little bit, but still good. He's still an all-star caliber player, but I'm worried that could change in the somewhat near future, despite the fact that the guy's only like 30 years old. We'll be playing against the Cavs in the first round. They've ironically got Winston Garland, former Bull, Darius Garland's dad, amongst others. And it looks like we start off strong, and then we lose 3 in a row. Awesome. So the Bulls get first rounded, and the Jazz, without Magic Johnson, win a title. So both times Magic Johnson has left a team today, those teams have gone on to win titles, I think, the following year. Wembanyama re-ups with the Bulls, as does Mark Price. So again, Victor Wembanyama is going to be sticking around with the Bulls for the long haul with this core of guys. We've added Clifford Robinson. We've added Byron Scott. I don't know if it's enough, though. Glenn Robinson goes number 1 to the Mavericks in 94. Jason Kidd's in this draft. Jalen Rose is there as well. Wembanyama, meanwhile, goes down by 4. He is an 86 overall. The regression is happening quick. He's now only around as good as he was as a rookie. Now, Wemby's still the best player on the team, which I feel like is more a concern than anything. I don't know if this team has what it takes to win a title. And we ended up having a pretty mediocre year, 44 wins. Shaq wins the MVP in Milwaukee in just his third NBA season. Wembanyama does not make an All-NBA team, and our seeding is declining. We still finish as the 5 seed, which is better than nothing, but it's still not great, and it feels like the team in core is getting worse. Wembanyama's numbers are really starting to fall. He only averaged 17 and 9. His worst season probably since his rookie year. Let's take a look at the Pacers. They've got Clark Kellogg, who's a little older now, Vlade Divac. They've got Manute Bol, the former Bull. And it turns out, okay, look at this, little comeback action. We were down 2-0 and won 3 in a row. The Bucks nearly lost in the first round. I would have loved to have not played against Shaq and Milwaukee, but you can't get everything you want, kids. We're down 3-1 and we lose in 5. This team just cannot get over the hump. The Spurs with Patrick Ewing win the championship, so no David Robinson, no problem. The Spurs still win it all. Kevin Garnett goes number 1 to the Clippers. Again, yeah, the Clippers are a team who has suffered so much throughout this video with all their championships that they get Kevin Garnett. Wembanyama goes down to an 83. He's still the best player on the roster, which again is more of a concern than anything at this point. He's only 30 years old, but he has really fallen off hard. He's officially lower than he was as a rookie. Now, the team's success is not hurt by this. We still win 52 games with C-Web winning the MVP with the Rockets. We end up finishing as the number 1 seed. How about that? Wemby's declining? No problem. And the 2-seeded Celtics had like the 5th best record in the conference. Standings were a little bit different back then. Winners of the divisions, I assume, just got the top seeds. As we take a look at the numbers on the year, Wemby's getting worse fast. He only averaged 14 and 8.5, both career lows. His shooting splits are going way down. He's only shooting 40% from the field. My brother in Christ, you are 7'4". Why are you shooting 40% from the field? So I don't know how this team is a 1 seed, but it is, as we'll face off against the Sixers with an old Dominique. They've got Charles Oakley and others. I feel like they're not much worse than us. How are they the 8 seed? How are we the 1 seed? We lose in 4. Great. So despite the fact that we were significantly better than the Sixers in the regular season, the Sixers were better on paper, and it shows. The Spurs with Hardaway and Ewing win a title over Shaq and the Bucks. I don't know what to say about this team. I just feel like they're not going to be able to get over the hump. Wembanyama's 31. He's still getting worse fast as we enter the legendary 96 draft. AI to the Grizzlies. Kobe to the Bullets. Remember, Michael Jordan was drafted by them as well. Steve Nash to the Nets. Ironic. Ray Allen goes to the Mavericks. I'm hoping the Bulls add somebody recognizable, but they add a no-name who I don't even think is a real person. Wembanyama goes down by 3 more. He is an 80 overall now. Christian Laettner is the highest rated player on the team. We added Charles Smith. We added Cedric Ceballos. But that's not enough to win a title, I don't think. So we'll simulate through the season now. And the team ends up pretty mediocre, 43 and 39. As C-Web wins another MVP with the Houston Rockets. Obviously no Bulls on the All-NBA teams. Last year we were the 1 seed. This year we're going to be in the 1 versus 8 matchup as the 8 seed, winning 43 games. Victor Wenbanyama's numbers again continue to fall. He averaged 12 and 6, and he did so on less than 40% shooting as we play against the Knicks with Hershey Hawkins, Jalen Rose, Eric Dampier. How is that team a 1 seed? This team isn't bad, but like on paper, they really aren't that good. Hopefully it's like last year where the 8 seed surprises. And that is exactly the case. The Bulls win in 4. Another 1 versus 8 upset. This time we're on the other side of the coin as we play against the Celtics. I think we can beat them. They don't look that crazy. Look at this. We're hanging in there. We're going to go to a Game 7 and we're going to simcast it. Again, this is going to be one of Wembanyama's last real chances, and boy, did the Bulls dominate, winning by 20. Wemby turns back the clock, 28 and 7, 3 for 3 from beyond the arc as we play against the Charlotte Hornets in the Eastern Conference Finals. They've got Jason Kidd, and that's really about it. And Jason Kidd is still really young. He's never made it this far in the playoffs. I feel like we can beat these guys too. Or maybe not. We're struggling early, but look at this. We tied at 2. We take the lead 3-2. We're going to simcast. Can this Bulls team somehow make the finals? I don't know if it's going to happen in Game 6. It doesn't look like it. Fairly close here at the end, but I think the Hornets have it. They'll win, and that'll bring us into a Game 7 simcast. This could be the last dance for this Bulls core. Is this the end of the road? Close game. We're going to hop in with 30 seconds left. The Bulls are up by 3, and we have a couple of free throws to extend the lead. It's a 4-point game. Can Garnett make it a 5-point game? He does not. It's off the back iron. Jason Kidd, obviously the one with the ball. Heaves up a prayer. No good. It's rebounded by the Bulls, and they will get a couple of free throws to potentially ice the game. The Bulls are going back to the finals for a second time in the Victor Wenbanyama era, and they do so as a number 8 seed in the playoffs. Of all the Bulls teams with Wemby in this video to make the finals, I did not think it would have been this one, with 83 overall, Christian Laettner as the highest rated player on the roster, and Wembanyama only being an 80 overall. But guess what? It doesn't matter. We get the job done, and we will meet up with the multi-time MVP, Chris Webber, and the Houston Rockets in the finals. Wembanyama had another pretty good game, 15 and 10. It seems like he plays at his best when the lights are the brightest. So we'll see if the 8-seeded Bulls can shock the world and upset the number 1-seeded Rockets. This is eerily similar to the first finals matchup with the Suns when they did not lose a single playoff game up until the finals. The Rockets have only lost one. Along with C-Webb, they've got a guy named Michael Jordan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Now, MJ's not the same player he once was. He only has one championship in this video, but he's a pretty good number 2 option, and it is showing. Thanks for playing, Chicago. It was fun while it lasted. We're going to simcast Game 5. Hope the boys can make a comeback down 3-1. I don't think it's going to happen. The Rockets get the job done. Chris Webber and Michael Jordan win a championship for Houston. Wembanyama is now 0-2 in the finals, although he did play a little bit better in the playoffs than he did in the regular season. Tim Duncan goes number 1 to the Supersonics in the 1997 draft. Tracy McGrady to the Trailblazers. Mr. Big Shot Chauncey Billups to the Brooklyn Nets, as we enter free agency once again. And as you'll know, Victor Wenbanyama is a free agent this year. Is this where he finally finds a new team? I honestly kind of hope so, despite the fact that we had a really fun run with the Bulls. So I simulated to the end of the free agency. I wasn't entirely sure if Wemby would be signed. He would end up getting signed by the Chicago Bulls. He's going to be back for another 3 years. I don't like that. This team doesn't have an established star. I don't think this is where Wemby can win. He goes down 3 more, now to a 77 overall. Kendall Gill is here now. I guess that's cool. Chris Webber wins another MVP here in 98. Tim Duncan, Rookie of the Year. No All-NBA players, obviously. But the Bulls do finish as the 6th seed. Not horrible, I guess. 46 and 36. The team is still making the playoffs, if nothing else. Now, Wembanyama's numbers are falling pretty hard. He only averaged 10 points. He shot 35% from the field. Again, you are 7'4". We're facing off against the newly named Washington Wizards, led by Kobe Bean Bryant in the first round. Kobe's a youngster, and it shows. We win in 4. Now we got the Boston Celtics here. We'll see if we can get the job done, make it back to the conference finals. Short answer, doesn't look like it's happening. Or is it? We were down 3-0. And we're going to a Game 7. Can the Bulls come back down 3-0 for a second time in this video? Close game. Boston looks to head the edge. I think the Celtics are going to pull it out. Unfortunately, we cannot complete the comeback, although Wemby played very well here in Game 7. The Nuggets beat the Celtics in the finals, so Denver wins their first title around 25 years earlier than real life, with Vin Baker winning the finals MVP. Then Saturday goes number 1 to the Pistons, Dirk to the Suns, Jamison to the Sixers, Mike Bibby to the Blazers. Apparently, Antoine Jamison is a brother, Gregory Jamison, who is pretty good. Paul Pierce goes to the Toronto Raptors, and Jason Williams is drafted by the Bulls. That's actually not the worst pick in the world. Wemby goes down even more. He is now a 75 overall after, again, shooting 35% from the field last year. I don't know how that's possible. He is 7'4". Wemby's not even in the rotation to start the year. That's how bad he is, let alone not being a starter. Chris Webber wins another MVP. My goodness, has he developed into a good player. Dirk wins the Rookie of the Year with the Phoenix Suns. Joe Smith wins Most Improved. Wasn't that the number 1 pick who played on like 15 teams? So the Bulls don't even make the playoffs. We end up as the 11th seed. The team as a whole is regressing, and that's because Wembanyama is regressing. Now, he still did play most of the games, but he averaged single-digit points, and he shot 34% from the field. Brother, you are 7'4". How is that possible? So we'll simulate through the playoffs. The Rockets with C-Webb get another title over Kobe Bryant and the Washington Wizards. So we are now in 1999. Even though Wembanyama's career feels like a disappointment, he's been in the league for 15 years. And a lot of the guys he was drafted with, like John Stockton, are starting to retire. Guys drafted after him are retiring. Wemby's got one more year on his deal before he becomes a free agent. As Elton Brand is drafted by the Sixers first overall. Ironic, because he ruined their team as a GM. Steve Francis teams up with Vince in Detroit. Andre Miller to the Knicks. AK-47 to the Blazers. Lamar Odom, Manu Ginobili, Jason Terry also in this draft class. That's honestly a pretty fun group. Wemby goes down by 3. He's a 72 overall. He's the worst player on the roster. As Allen Iverson wins the MVP here at the turn of the millennium in 2000. When Wemby started regressing, I did not think he would make it to the year 2000, so I'm honestly kind of impressed that he's made it this far. Now, he doesn't really have a role for this Bulls team, who again does not make the playoffs, obviously. The Bulls finished as the 10 seed again, winning 33 games. And Victor Wenbanyama's stats, well, they're not much of them because he barely played, shooting 21% from the field. And as you can see here, he's planning on retiring at the end of the year. Gotta respect a self-aware king. It's about time. Shaq and AI win a title. The fact that they're teammates is crazy. That's quite the duo. Wemby's not in the retirements list. He's not done for Lord knows what reason. I guess he just decided to change his mind and he's not a self-aware king after all. The 2000 draft is regarded as one of the worst in NBA history. There are still some good players here. Kenyon Martin to the Spurs, Hedo Turkoglu to Detroit. Jay Crossover teams up with Dirk. I feel like the scoring on that team would be really fun. Now, Victor Wenbanyama is a free agent. Once again, he's one of the oldest and worst players in the class. And he did not end up signing anywhere, which isn't a surprise because he's not very good at basketball. He's the third oldest player in free agency, only behind the late Drazen Petrovic and Karl Marx. Has he had enough of, like, communism and all that? He wanted to play basketball, even though his first and last name are spelled wrong? That's kind of funny. So at the end of the 2000 and 2001 season, obviously Wemby unsurprisingly did not get signed. He finally decides to call it a career after 16 seasons in the league at the age of 36 years old, all 16 of which were spent with the Bulls. A trend that I noticed throughout this video is that a lot of players did not stick with their teams. We've seen guys like MJ, Hakeem, and Magic Johnson play with their same teams in real life for pretty much their whole career. Obviously, MJ and Hakeem bounced around late, but still, those guys stayed with their teams for a while. Wemby did too, probably to a fault for both the Bulls and Wemby, because the Bulls, I feel like, never properly built a team around him, and then Victor Wenbanyama was cooked by the age of 30, and I feel like the Bulls would have been better off letting him go earlier. He finishes 14th all-time in threes made with over 1,000, which is really impressive for somebody who's 7'4". He ends up making the Hall of Fame, which isn't really a surprise. He had a great career, very well deserved, but I can't help but feel like it was a disappointment in a way. The Bulls made the finals twice with Wemby, never winning a title, and I never feel like this team was really a serious contender, minus a couple fluky playoff runs. Wemby's number does not get retired, which makes no sense to me. He is one of the only loyal stars of this era, but I guess he doesn't get it retired. I feel like Wemby's downfall was that he played in such a physical era of the 1980s and the 1990s, and because of that, his body broke down faster, which is why he started regressing at 27 years old. And I think lucky for him, he's not going to have to deal with that in today's game. I feel like people call today's game soft. I don't think that's true. I still feel like it is a physical game, but obviously not to the extent that it was in the 90s. And Wemby's not going to have to be in the post every play because A, that's not what centers do in 2023, and B, that's not his game to begin with. So I feel like Wemby's career here in the 80s and 90s is pretty accurate to what it would be if he was dropped into this time period. But I'm confident that this is not the player he will be in real life. Not to say he's going to be better than this because he was a Hall of Famer, but still, I think he has been put into the perfect era, and I'm excited to see how his career ends up. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.